Right. We're going to begin. Uh, can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Once again, I want to introduce myself. I'm Fred Massey. I've been uh, doing several series over the last year or so uh, on personal development, and I'm beginning the business development of this series. And part of what we want to do for these business development sessions is to go over, for those who are interested in starting a business, learning some of the hints, uh, things behind the scenes that it takes to be able to start a business and then be able to be successful at it. Um, as we go along, I'll share my journey as I've started my business over the last several years and be able to allow for those who are interested in that to be able to get some insights. Uh, there's a curriculum that we're working with that we'll be going and following. Today, we're looking at starting of how to start a business. Next week or next month, we have these sessions the second Saturday of each month. And then we'll go into looking at the different business structures that are taking place when you want to build a business. A lot of times I get questions on when individuals are wanting to start a business is what are, should I be a sole proprietor? Should I be a corporation? And what one of the very popular things now is LLCs, limited liability companies. So we're going to talk about all those different structures next month and go over what is the advantages and disadvantages of those so that we have a better understanding. Because one of the things I've seen over time is that a lot of people start businesses and then they start looking at, okay, is this the right structure? What can I do? And they've already started it. So my hope is that as we go through this process, you're able to get an understanding of it. And then after that, we're going to go into developing a business plan, because many people get into businesses and then they don't have a plan of action of what steps they want to take for the first month, first year. Um, they don't understand that it takes maybe 3 to 4, 5 years once you start a business to look at breaking even. So what do you do during that period of time? So we want to make sure that we take opportunity to plan it out and then be able to have that as a roadmap as we go through. And it's a way to react to the plan as you go along. So it's not to be a stagnant plan, but what we would want people to do is be able to understand that as you grow your business, you have to subject to change. And as you change, then you can want to be flexible to be able to react to it, but you got to have some roadmaps and some plans and some options available to you, because it's very difficult to be able to do this on the fly. And one of the things that we're going to do that you all, because I'm giving these sessions once a month, the expectation is that you take this information, I'll give some recommendations of some resources, and then you take it and apply it to your business. Because the goal is after these 9 months of sessions is that if you've already started a business, then you have a plan that you're able to continue to build it to the next level. If you're looking to start a business, then you have a plan to give you some confidence as you begin to go out on that to be able to start that business for yourself. And we'll look at all the different sections of a business. And we're actually going to take an actual business plan and develop it from the beginning through the end using these sessions. So, you'll be able to see it firsthand. At the same time, you'll be able to develop your own as an example. So this is very interactive. As I start these sessions, I leave space at the end so that we can talk and answer your questions that you might have as an opportunity as we continue to grow, because I would be great. And it'd be great that after these 9 sessions, as we get down to December, that several businesses have started, or businesses that have been started, go to the next level in operating, because that's one of my visions of my organization, Visions 2020, which I started last year, but that was a culmination of almost 20 years of development. So I'm hoping that, through what I've learned you're able to go and get your business started in a much faster way. So if you have any questions, um, won't you note on like the hand thing and in the Zoom link, and I'll be able to try to take notes or send a chat message. But I will be leaving time at the end, about the last 15 minutes, to be able to go over questions you might have for your business or for the things that you might want to be doing. So I want to welcome you all to the session. And this is things that we will learn as we go through the process. And if you have any suggestions on anything, let me know, and we'll go and try to incorporate that. So let's get started. Once again, this first session is about starting a business. Now, for those who might be on session now, it's for those who are in different stages of business, whether you're investigating it, looking to start it, researching, or for those who started and want to learn a little bit better about how they started to get it continue on a little bit more stronger foundation, or for those who've been in business for a while and are looking to take it to the next level. I get questions all the time from all those different individuals in those spaces, and this is my opportunity to be able to address that. So wherever you're at, don't feel that you have to be already there for 15 years, because I know people who've been in business for 20 years, but they're still operating a certain level. They want to take it to the next level. There's those who just started, and are really blossoming. And then there's just trying to figure out, where should I start? So, don't hesitate to ask questions, because I want this to really be a learning environment. Let me start with this. A lot of times, when individuals are looking to start businesses, and you see it really blossoming, especially over the last year or two with the pandemic. Everyone's like, I want to be on my own. I want to be my own boss. I want to be a boss, and I want to do this and do that. And I sit back and I look at that sometimes, and I want people to get a realistic expectation, especially starting out on your business. It's very rare for someone to start a business and be a multimillionaire in 3 months. There are people who have been small businesses, which constitute in the United States, and I'm giving it from a US perspective, but there are people who've been in businesses for years and in small businesses, and been lifetime, be family businesses or things they started for themselves. And this pandemic has shown they might have been doing restaurants, different things, small business, and been destroyed or have to give that up. So I want to make sure that we understand that, businesses have different levels, different structures, but you have to make sure that you go in with the right mindset if you really want to be able to pursue a business. That's why my first sessions that I started, before I wanted to do the businesses, I really wanted to do this session first. But for the first 9 months, I started on the personal development series about who you are, knowing yourself, strengths, weaknesses, things like that, so that you have your right mind, establishing how to be able to deal with stress, exercise, nutrition, because all those things have to be incorporated if you really want to be able to endure in business. Because business, especially self-starting, it takes a lot of discipline. So I wanted to try to get rid of some of these myths that you're going to be a boss, you're going to be slinging this, this and that, all these other type of things, driving these cars, all these things, because really in the reality in humble beginnings, as like most people who start their business, there's sacrifice. When you start bringing on staff, then you have to recognize they eat first, because they're out there producing. There's times where you want to be able to get all that riches, and sometimes you have to reinvest that back into the business. So I want to make sure that you have to have the mindset set up if you really want to be able to do this for a long term, because the majority of businesses fail within the first 3 years. That's a reality. And so you have to understand that. So that's why it's so important that I'm taking this approach in developing a business plan, because you have to be able to understand is, what do you have to do over the next 3 to 5 years to make sure that you can reach that curve? Because anyone that understands business know that there's cycles. There's a startup, There's a growing, there's a plateau, there's a decline, and then you go through that cycle again over and over again. It might be a 3-year cycle, 5-year, 10-year, but typically businesses have those cycles. And so you need to be able to understand that what cycle am I in? What do I need to do in order to be able to build that up and to survive that and then move forward? So it's more than just being a boss, but it's also being able to understand that I want to endure this for a long period of time. And then there's different strategies. Sometimes when you're in successful small businesses, that you want to continue to do it, pass it down to your family. But there's some people who start businesses and spin them off to other people and then go on to the next business. Those are some of your true entrepreneurs, your venture capitalists, those that want to invest and get those startups, grow it, and then get it, take what they can get out of it, and then move it to another person or sell it to another person so that they can take it to the next level. So that's a business in itself. So there's different things. I want to take off the in the mindset that business has to be cookie cutter. It's based upon certain things. And let's look at, you know, in today's session is to get to that point for yourself and understand about business. Why start a business versus a job or working for someone? And none of these are, it's not bad or good. It's just you got to know yourself and understand that. I mean, there's a difference of working for someone, which I did for several years. I've worked for people, but at the same time, I've always wanted to be out on my own. And so there's different ways that you can do that and dabble in that and type of thing, but you have to be able to get that understanding as you begin this process for yourself. So why start a business versus a job? Well, let's look at some of the things that you get from a job. I mean, you get structure. You know when to report, who to report to, if you have any questions, where to go to. So it gives you some sense of structure. There's stability in it. You know, and this is the thing you'll appreciate, once you start launching on your own. But, you know, you don't typically worry, when you go to a job, okay, I'm going to work and get a paycheck. So there's stability in it. Now there's some, different factors when you're struggling or there's, with the pandemic and some business going under, things like that, but for the most part, you typically, feel that I can go to a job, work what I'm posted to work, and then be able to get my income from that. And then it's systematic. Typically you're trained to do a particular task, and once you get trained in it, you feel comfortable and you continue to do those things over and over again. So it's very systematic. And then the other part of it from a job is you have income potential. Okay, I can work this, get a raise, do this, take on more responsibilities, get another promotion, things like that. So you do have those things with jobs. And once again, this is not right or wrong. It's based upon what you have to know yourself and be able to connect. But what happens when you look at a business? Well, business is dynamic sometimes for the most part, because you have to get clients. You don't know, from day to day how things are. This day you might be working a client. Another day you might be marketing. Another day you might be going out and trying to improve or respond. So it's very changing. I know where I'm at in my business. I have different clients, and from day to day, things change. You're working on one particular thing, you're assessing something else. You need to be able, and the client wants to launch a new particular business or program, and you have to go and assess that. Or you want to hire people, or you're filling in for different as a contract employee. So it's very dynamic. Wealth is a business because you have a little bit more control. It's a little bit more flexible. There's times where, as a contractor employee, you have the ability to make your hours and change different things. You know, you know, be flexible. Whereas, when you're working a job, you have to be at this time, at this place. Whereas in your business, based upon what your business is, you have some other flexibility to control a little bit of that and change and all. And that's one of the things too that drove me in the switch too, because as you go through and grow and mature in different things, you want a little bit more flexibility as you experience different things in life. And to be able to say, hey, I can work these particular clients and take on these amount of clients, and then for this period of time, be able to enjoy this or be able to go here or do those things. The other part of it is independent. You get some of your independence when you're on your business because you control it's up to you. You have to work it. You can hire people on contractors. You can sit there and find your clients. You get the ability to bring on clients. And then at the same time, you also have the ability to fire clients. If something's not working well, you can have the ability to, phase out. So there is some sense of that as far as independence. Um, and then the last part, wealth potential. Now, with jobs, you have income potential, but with businesses, you have wealth potential, meaning that you can grow it to a point where you're not just working as an employee of your business, but you can be able to expand and hire on. Just like that venture capitalist scenario, you can grow your business up. And I was in a networking group with other CEOs who were small business owners, and I sat there and looked and learned. Some of them were in Germany, some were across some Australia, New Zealand, and what they would do is they would go in UK, and they would build their business up to a point where they maximize what they had put into it. They're getting earnings off of it, and then they would sell it to a bigger entity and grow it even more. And that way they took that money and they would invest into other businesses and things like that. So this gives you opportunity that it's not just for what you can produce, but you can be able to have the business produce for you. And that's another thing. And we're going to talk a little bit about that difference between the income and the wealth potential as a reminder, because this is something that you need to hold on sometimes. When you take that risk, there's much more reward, but there's also risk with that too. So I mentioned income versus wealth as a mindset again. And we want to just talk about this a little bit more, just so that we have this as an understanding, because one of the things that you recognize as you start launching out into your business or you're out there is that, there's a sense of discipline that you need to have in order to be successful with this. You need to be able to continue to be in the mix. And so that's why my first sessions of personal development were so important, because it showed how you get your mind, body, soul into the right alignment. Because there are times where you have to push yourself to get up, push yourself to be able to take on clients or continue to work through certain things. And if you don't do that, then it comes down on you, because once again, you're creating that. It's on you. You don't have as necessary that support system to be able to have it keep going. And if you have people that you get so successful and that are relying upon you as employees or contractors, then you have to be out there and being able to be the motivator when things are going on. Think about this. For those that had small business during the pandemic, you had to change on the fly. You had people, there were restaurant owners who were able to survive this, and they had to be able to keep people who were waiters or hostesses, the things that when the restaurants were shut down, how were they able to continue to keep them on, things like that. So, you have to be able to have that discipline and recognize that. So let's look at some of this, a little bit more factors of income versus wealth, just so that you understand where do you really want to take this business. Typically when you're under an income, you're working a job, you're an employee, you do work based upon what you're supposed to do, and you receive a paycheck. And so that's type of the relationship. And so what you can get out of it is the income based upon the work that you do of your own hands. There are other types of ways that you can produce income. You can have interest and dividends when you own, bonds and money market accounts. Savings accounts give you interest and things like that on the money you put in the bank or savings and loan or credit union. But it's based upon what you start up with, and then you get earnings off of that. There's also the mentality of the hustle. And the hustle is basically, you're out there, you have a hobby, you like doing things. One thing that's very common is for those individuals who love to bake or cook or whatever, they're doing it in their house, everyone loves their food and things like that. And they're able to go for friends, family, the different folks, church members, or any associates, so you're out there doing these things, but you're not necessarily formalized. You don't have your formal business set up. You don't have, your system set up. You don't have a plan. And what I want to be able to, for those who are in that stage, and that's part of business development, is to get to that point where you move from that hustle to you get to the point where you can formalize. Because why? For those who were just in the hustle, but really weren't operating in business, a full business, you didn't take advantage of what took place during this pandemic, because the government was able to give small business owners who were legitimate, had tax returns filed, they were set up and had their federal ID numbers, things like that. You were able to participate in the bailout program for the pandemic. But if you were just in hustle mode, you missed out. And so that's why it's important to move and always go to that next level. I kind of like in the stages to in business development, hobby. We all have things we just love to do, and we just do it because that's for the fun of it. But then you get to the point where as you do it more and more, people say, "Hey, you can cook. I love what you do with those different things, or how you make these things and make face masks and things like that." And so it comes into a hustle where, okay, yeah, you're doing different things, kind of off the books and getting money and doing those things. But once again, it can't get you to that level where you can get small business loans and be able to be efficient with it. So you have to go to that next level. And those are the things that we're talking about that we'll go through. And when we do our business plan development, or what things that you need to do in order to get to that move, that next level. I started my business formally, a year and a half ago, but I've been operating on feeding into this for almost 20 years. And the thing that I recognize even now, I was on a session, for one of my clients, and part of the session was talking about some of the things you have to be on a list in order to be able to get a contract. So I was like, oh, I missed out on that. So here I am, and over in the next weekend or so, I'm going to be filing so I can get on that list so that my business will have an opportunity to go across the state. But so you never stop. You never stop. And that's why about wanting to continue to move on. I mean, I'm getting contracts now, but I want to be able to expand my market so that I can be able to not just be in a certain area, but be able to expand. So that's the part of moving from the, hobby to the hustle to the true small business that we want to work with. Um, on the income level, you're typically self-employed. You can be a self-employed individual, and this is also where you have to watch out as a business owner. You can be a business owner, but typically, if you're just being self-employed and you have to work that business, you're still in that income producing mode, because if you stop, income money stops coming in. So you're not truly to that point where it's translated to the fact that if you can stop and money still comes in, you've shifted from income to wealth. An example I always give in this income versus wealth, because it's not about just money. I mean, you could be making millions of dollars a year. Let's look at this, for example, a professional athlete. A professional athlete makes millions of dollars when they sign different contracts. But look at the stories we hear about when that athlete's contract stops, how they go bankrupt, or they go and get into drugs, or they get into trouble. Why is that? Because just because you're bringing in millions of dollars a year doesn't make you wealthy. Because if you think about it from let's say a football player perspective, you got Dak Prescott that just signed almost a $40 million a year contract for the Dallas Cowboys. But if that's all he's doing is getting that money over, and some of that guaranteed money over the next 3 to 4 years, what happens when that contract ends if he doesn't take and reinvest that or does something with that, so that after that contract ends, I mean, he spent almost a year off because he got hurt. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen again. So if football goes away, what happens with him? And that's why I like what Mahomes has done, with the Kansas City Chiefs, because he's making $500 million a year in a contract, $500 million in his contract, but he bought into the Kansas City Rangers, baseball team, and the Royals, and all those different things, so that he knows that he's taking that and reinvesting, so that if he's not working it himself, he still has money coming into him. And that's the transition as we look at wealth. So if we look at the wealth side of things, you have investments. So when you buy a stock, bond, real estate, commodities, okay, after that initial purchase, the expectation is that capital gains of the value comes back to you. So that's a way of you not having to work for it, and that's a sample of wealth. Franchises, you go into a point where another opportunity for businesses that we have to look at is that you see like the McDonald's out there, and typically, or the Chick-fil-A. In the past, I looked into a Chick-fil-A franchise, and at that time, it costs about $200,000 to get into the franchise fee agreement. And then you had to work in a, work for the company for like 6 months before they turn the store that you invested into over to you. And then you had to go through it, work in it, and go through their classes and things like that. So, but franchising is a good example because you can take a concept that you did on a local level, perfect it, and then multiply it and over other places. And that way you can have people buy interest that they have on their own store, but buy off of your idea. So that's another way of franchising. So you can start your own store, you know, or business, and then franchise it. And then other people pay in to be able to take that in their area, but you get money off of that through a franchise fee. You could start your own company, build it up, and then sell it. That's another good example. Or you have employees that are working for you so that you don't have to be there. You might hire a manager so that you can go and do other things so that that income's still coming to you. Or as an example of an athlete might be making millions of dollars, but the owner is a billionaire. And they are making money off of the television money they participate in, the concessions money they're participating in. They make money off of that, and they're not on the field getting hurt. You never seen a team owner have to be carted off the field, but they're making the money. So that's another extinction and looking at the difference when you look at income versus wealth. Now, why did I personally start a business? And and like I said before, this is something that's was over a 20-year process starting out. You know, you know, when it comes down to it, I put a little statement out here. After several years of seminars, education, and one of the best schools to attend called life, I believe I've begun to understand why the understanding of purpose is so important. Wealth, and this is something is a this is a formula that I kind of live by. Wealth is equal to your passion with your ability to do what's with the purpose that's been put in you. And you see in life as you go through and strip through all the different layers and walls that come on you because of just life. And if you can get down to yourself, we all have purpose of why we want to do something. We want to help people. We want to help people. We want to grow. We want to be able to learn. We want nature. We want all those things. And that is a compass to some of the things that you do as far as you want in your business. Because if you want to be able to continue and operate your business, it has to be something that you believe in, that you want to do, that has something that's passionate with you. If not, then it can die, or it can, when you get challenged, it's going to be very easy to give that up. So that's why I always start with what's in me, what's the ability that I have. And we all have strengths and weaknesses. And we talked about that in the personal development series. And those will kind of be a compass to the direction of what you want to do. If you really look at who you are, you'll be able to see a lot. For me, anyone that's around me, I will look at things and say how they can be improved. I'll go into and I'll see something on TV and say, well, why didn't they do this? And they need to do that. And then I'll look at myself and say, why didn't we do this? Or how can we do this? And, the pandemic happened. Well, you know what? The government should have done it this way. That would have made it a little bit more easier. And then we need to have done this. And because of that, I'm very strategic. And that's been reinforced when, one of the sessions that we talked about is strength finders. And they take it as strength finders where it talks about your 15 strongest strengths and what that means and how it can channel you into the things, and also talk about what your areas of weakness. But I really am very strategic when I look at, and this is why I've moved more into business advising, consulting. I can go in and once, an individual has an issue with their business, it's not making money, or they need to get it to the next level. I can look at that, develop a plan, and work with people to get to that point. And that's just something that's in me because it's just me. I don't have to force it out. So that's basically, so you take that and package it around the talents that you have something that can be a business that you live by. I talk about this a lot, and this is an example when I say this has been 20 years in the making. This is a book that I had out on Amazon. And if you are part of my Facebook group, the personal development series, You have access to this that I uploaded it out there. And if you're interested in it, let me know about it in the business development. But I wrote this back in 2011. 2011. And this is when I did a session, a seminar over in Kenya and also over in Germany. And it took me about 5 months to write this because I was writing it so I could have it with me when I went and did the seminar. And it talks about in there about why and my journey of, from business and schools and trainings and seminars to the point of looking at understanding, purpose and vision. So for those who are interested in it, because from background, I'm a CPA, went to be a CPA, went to a public accounting firm, worked there, worked as in numerous management positions from accounting supervisors, director of finance, CFO, ultimately to being a CEO of a company and running it for several years. So I have all those experience in industry and business, but at the same time, those were all equipping me and using talents that I had within me so that I could be able to look at it now to have my Visions 2020 company. And I take all those past experiences and use that to what I do now in helping others. And this is an example of it, these sessions. My job and my goal is that by doing these sessions that individuals get the information, because one of the things that I've learned in business, I don't care how well you can do and all those things, people connect to you, not your business. Your business is you. And so because of that, you have to have the ability to be able to understand and share yourself. And so this was one of my first attempts of putting the things out there as far as what I believed in, what business and things and how that works together. And I always reflect back to that as my why. So at this time, I want us to be able to, I want to start gathering some information because in two more sessions, we are going to start developing our business plan. And we're going to go over what's all involved in the business plan. We'll show an examples as we go through so that you can develop your own business plan through this process. But I want you all to be able to take the time, because one of the first things you got to be able to do is understand is your mission, your vision. Why are you wanting to do this business? Because you have to be able to communicate that, because when you go through and do up your business plan, that's one of the first things you're going to have to do. When you sign up and set your business up to start your marketing, those are things that they first ask. I don't care if you do it through Small Business Administration, you do on a website, you do on the different things. They want to know, what is the purpose of your business? What did you do? Why you did this? So you need to be able to have these things started in order to be able to get to your point to launch out. So, and for those who are on, this is an opportunity for you to be able to share. This is a group of individuals that I want us to be able to understand and go and grow, because you can have to be able to have yourself open to other folks that might not see it the way that you see it, so that you can expand your market, so that you can be able to be as successful as you can. So for those who might feel comfortable, I'm asking at this time that you unmute yourself and just say, maybe let you know what type of business that you're looking to start or what you've started, and maybe share with the group, the vision of why. The why is the vision of why you're doing what you're doing. And I want, take this opportunity, because this is an opportunity to begin to practice that as we look at going into further about launching your business. So if anyone wants to share at this time, I'm just interested in saying, what is, share who you are, what business and, that you have and, or you want to start, and why.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Chanel.
All right. My business is called Free Yourself Fitness. My mission is helping people from a holistic approach become the best version of themselves through health and wellness. And when you were discussing, why did I start a business? Passion plus power plus purpose equals wealth. I wrote that my passion is helping and watching people's bodies transform for the better. My power is I'm committed, consistent, organized, and strive for excellence. And my purpose is helping people become the best version of themselves.
Well, thank you for sharing. And for those who might not know, as we go through these sessions, we are going to be able to help and develop the business with Chanel. Chanel's been and was with me for several years and was with the personal development sessions. And we're going to develop and work with her as a sample of her business plan as we go through the process. So thanks, Chanel, for sharing.
You're welcome.
Joel, I see that you got your hand up there.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. To be honest, I'm at this stage of my life, I feel like I'm facing some aspects of starting a business that I guess, well, Fred, you know my story. We've talked about the things that I've been through coming up. So I've been coming out of a shell the last few years. So for me, I was thinking about the fact that I fix cars, and you were talking about, basically the difference between a business and a hobby. And I realized that I've kind of treated it like a hobby, because I haven't really gotten any true organization about it. I just do it, because it's something that has enabled me to make a few extra bucks on the side. So at the same time, as I was thinking about that, I was thinking about, okay, is there something that I really want to take to the next level to make it an actual business? So that's something I know I need to consider. But while I guess if I would state a purpose for taking it to the next level and making an actual business out of it, I've always liked working with my hands. We talked the other day about things that I feel like are starting to open up and expand within me. So I would say my purpose is, and if I choose to take this business to an actual business level, is to be able to possibly, even get to the point where I could provide what's the word I'm looking for? Apprenticeship of opportunity for, maybe somebody that wants to go to school and learn how to fix cars. Perhaps, whatever establishment I would open could be an opportunity for them to, to start to develop what they learn in school, to take it further.
Well, thanks.
I'll stop there. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
Oh, I was going to say thanks for sharing. I want us to be able then continue as we move on, because there's one more slide I want to go through, and then we can open it up for questions specifically for those that have it, and grow from there. So I want to thank everyone that was able to share. And I just want to go over this last point, because I will say, and I'll be honest, it took me 20 years. All these things I've been wanting to do took me 20 years to get to this point. And I think part of it was fear, because once again, when you look at job versus a business, with a job, you have stability. You have something you can come in, every day, and you kind of know what to do and things like that. And once you get past that learning curve, it gets a little bit more easier. Well, so, and then about the stability of it, okay, income. So I can always, if it's a relative stable company, then you go in, you get your paycheck, do your things, and kind of just live life. And the thing that is interesting when starting my business over the last year and a half, I'm 100% in. I totally live off of what I earn, period. And that is a total different perspective, especially when you've been a CEO of a company and making money. some good money to the point of where you have to start from scratch and build that up. And so I just wanted to give you this scenario just so that for those that are concerned about that switch, and if you go through these sessions, you'll be able to get in a much better position to make that switch. But this was part of one of my, blocks, pitfalls that was holding me back. And I wanted to make sure I share this so that everyone has that opportunity to be able to know. Suppose you just have a job and you're making $200,000 a year. And I mean, a lot of people would say, wow, that's great. 6 figures, 200,000 a year. And if we just did basically, based upon the tax rate in the US at $200,000 a year income, tax rate's 32%. So if you would just do a simple tax of 32% on your income, and we're not including exempts and deductions. So for those who might be tax experts out there, this is not, a true tax planning session that I would do with folks, because I have software that I go and use. I'm a CPA, so I can go through that and explain, but I just wanted for just demonstration purpose for people to understand. So your simplified taxes would be about $64,000 a year on that scenario. And that's what you're doing with a job. But let's take that same type of level of gross income on a business level of $200,000 a year. Then this is the difference why you have to understand the income versus wealth mindset, and why you're able, with the same amount of dollars coming in, to be able to translate that into wealth if you do it in the right manner. So if you have $200,000 of contracts coming in, and depending upon the structure, and we're going to talk about structures the next session in May, but depending upon the structures, you're able to have deductible expenses. So you can take a salary from that income of contracts coming in. If you set it up right, you can have a company vehicle. You can have the expenses that you typically wouldn't be able to deduct as an individual, deduct as a business owner. And suppose you have $100,000 of expenses because you're taking salary, vehicles, and all those things. Then have a net income of $100,000. And based on that net income level, $100,000, the equivalent tax rate is 24%. So then your simplified taxes would be $24,000. So if everything was all things equal, bring in the same $200,000, you're saving $40,000 of taxes that you can reinvest into your business or to yourself. And I want to put that out there because I didn't even really think about it, being even knowing how to do taxes and all that. I wasn't even thinking about that aspect. So when people say, how do you go from a $200,000 income to a big business? Yes, it's a little bit more difficult because you have to set up the infrastructure in order to be able to do it and leverage that. But you do have the ability as a business owner to be able to save some of those things. Because when I went from a job that had, I was getting a paycheck, I had, health insurance, life insurance, all those different things. I had to be able to do that. And I had those same things as a business owner, but I had to set those up and deal with the structure of that. So I have my own retirement account. I have my own health insurance and all those things. But the difference is now, based on how you set it up, it's deductible to me. And those same things that you couldn't deduct as an individual, you're able to deduct as a business owner, depending upon how you structure it, to a point where you can save just in taxes to be able to reinvest that back in. So basically, the short of this is that, if you're making a paycheck of about $200,000, you don't necessarily have to make that as the same paycheck in a business in order to have things being equal. And those are the things we learn as we go through this process, depending upon how you structure it out. As I go through these sessions, I want to leave with good resources for you to follow up. So one of the things that I've listened to and read is this book called How to Start a Business by Greg Shields. it's excellent to me. You know, I don't get any money from this or anything, but I do recognize that, you know, once we go from session to session, you know, there's resources that you need to do to follow up on things like that. Until I get to a point where I write my own workbook, which is going to be my next evolution after I do these sessions, is to do my own workbook so that people can follow along with it. But this is a great resource, how to start a business, because if you pick this up, it can be audible if you're driving a car, or another actual book. Um, by the time we get to next session, when we talk about, you know, business structures, I'm going to be dealing with all these structures, type, you know, sole proprietor, LLC, you know, all those different things, so that you can have an idea of when you really want to take your business to the next level, or you're already at a business, you know, I'm at sole proprietor. Why would I want to go to an LLC, or what are the different things? This is going to be a great opportunity for you to be able to have a resource to fall back on as you go through this process. Because the one thing I found out in dealing with consulting business advisory with individuals, there are folks who are actually get ready to file for the business structure, launch it and all that, but they don't know why, or they don't know the different options. And that's when I said, wait a minute, what are you trying to do? This is why I always want to start with the vision of what you want and your mission first. And then what is your business plan? What is the length of when you want to start this thing up and evolve this out? Because you could go in different stages. You might want to start as a sole proprietor for a reason and then move to a different thing. Or you might need to start out a little bit more secure as a different entity because of the legal issues that you might be dealing with your business. So there's different things that you have to look at when you're looking at structure. But this is a good book as a resource for those as we go through this process. Here's some of my contact information for those if you want to reach out to. Um, Once again, on Facebook, I have a business development session group. That's those in this group that we're able to, if you need to, if you're on Facebook, you can like my vision group and then request to enter into this business development series, because this is information where I can upload different information to. It's a private group, and you're able to join in, post questions and things like that. Because what I realize in business is the more individuals that you have, even though we might be doing different things, the better it is as a networking group because of trust and building information, sharing, and being able to support each other as we go through this process. Because the reality is that when people ask things of myself, it's like, do you know someone that can do this or that, or all these type of things? I will make recommendations based on, once again, who you know and who you've been through and experienced. For instance, anyone that wants to deal with fitness and health, I definitely would recommend to Janelle because of what she's going through and what she's doing. She's already having clients and dealing with that. For those who might have other type of business, that's why as we go through this process, we'll be able to share and be able to recommend and refer to one another's, so that we continue to grow through this process. So I highly suggest, if you're really interested, continue on staying in touch with the information. Go on Facebook, Vision, go ahead to Visions 2020, like my group, join my, and then request access to the business development series, and so that we can be able to continue to keep flooded with information. After these sessions, typically I upload onto the group the video of this, and I also, as I look to expand viewership and things, I go out to YouTube. I have a Visions group out there on YouTube that you're able to access, and then also Instagram and Twitter if you have those type of vehicles. Yes, Joel.
Yes, I was just on Audible. There's two versions of that book by Greg Shields. One was released in 18, one was released in 17. So which one would you suggest? And interestingly enough, the one released in 2017 is an hour longer than the more recent version.
Well, the one I'm following, let's see here. That's a good question. Because I have it under Audible, so that I can listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
It is the one. Let's see here. Um,
Yeah, the one that you put the picture up was released on September 4th, 2018. How to Start a Business by Greg Shields, and then the older version that was released almost a year earlier, September 17th, 2018, is How to Start a Business: The Ultimate Step-by-Step
that's the one.
Guide.
The ultimate step by step.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one.
is that the one? That's the one you would suggest?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Well, then I'll get it.
Okay.
That's what I'll get. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now this opens up for questions. And anyone have any questions on, you know, business process, things you want me to cover as we go through these sessions? If you just unmute. Oh, okay. Okay, Chanel.
I have a question about the last slide that you posted that takes tax advantage of businesses versus jobs.
Yes.
So was that illustration just to show the difference between the simplified taxes? I seen a difference on the business side where it said expenses, where you said salary, vehicle, et cetera. In 100,000, you had put $100,000 there. Now, were you like saying that those are something that could be deducted, like considered deductibles? I just wanted to make sure that I understood the slide completely.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that is right. See, the difference in a job is you basically get a paycheck, wages, and then you pay your tax based off that. And then when you file, like in the States here, you get for your personal 1040 that you file, you take your W-2 earnings, and then you have, your exemptions and your deductions, your standard deductions, or depending upon what you qualify for, to get down to a next net adjusted gross income, which you get take taxes against, tax rate, and then that's the taxes that you pay. Well, with a business, and this is where business advisory services come in too, is how do you get as efficient as possible? Because there are certain people that have different strategies. For instance, I want to make sure I pay as minimum amount of taxes legally as possible. So that's why they go to tax advisors and be able to minimize, taking advantages, setting up different things such as trusts and all these different things you can do to maximize your tax deductions. And so the example I was showing there on business is, okay, you got your gross income, then you have your deductible expenses that are legitimate from your business that gets you to a net income. And for this example, $200,000 gross income, some contracts you've generated, and then you have your legitimate deductible operating business expenses of 100,000, could be salaries that you pay as yourself, because as I'm an employee of my own company. So now I deduct my salary that I take out, and that's a deductible expense. And then also too is my company purchased my vehicle. I have a company vehicle. So that's a deductible expense versus if it's just your own vehicle as an individual working for someone. And then there's other expenses such as internet access, all these different things that you typically would do, you have for yourself. But if you're operating it in the business, now you have to do it in the right structure, such as they have to be in, the leases have to be in the business name, and agreements have to be in the business name. Those are the things we'll talk about in setting up. But when you set up these legitimate expenses, then you come down to the deductible. And so if I had $100,000 of expenses, then the net income is 100,000, then you pay tax on that. Now, in this scenario, as an LLC single entity, and we'll talk about that later, in a later session, in the next session in May. Basically, as a single entity LLC, I file my business income as a Schedule C on my individual tax return. So I just basically take my business income, put it on Schedule C, and file it with my 1040. And so even though I might be as a W-2 job earner doing the same thing, but you don't have a Schedule C, I have a Schedule C, so I'm able to deduct some of the expenses and things to that, which gets me to a net income, which is a lowable taxable income to pay taxes on, if you look at the equivalent tax rates for the same income coming in from the get-go. Now, this is very simplified, but the reality of this is, I wouldn't even pay, I wouldn't even have net income of $100,000 because as a true tax advisor would be, you would do things to lower that before you have to file taxes. So even that 100,000 in income, typically, like for instance, you could pay yourself all a bonus. You could purchase more, reinvest into the business, things so that you wouldn't have that net income. So you could get to a point where you don't even have, net income, but you
Mhm.
still have that gross income coming in. So, but that's once again is why when you do up your business plan, one of the things that we look at in some of the sections is as you develop your operational plan is why I say a lawyer and an accountant are going to be important because many people aren't accountants themselves or CPAs or tax people. So you need to factor it in so you can take advantage because you might want to skimp off and say, I don't want to put that money out to that person, pay that person $40,000 a year to, as a retainer or something like that. But that $40,000 a year paying to that retainer has just saved you, $40,000 in taxes.
Mhm.
So that's why we got to look at these scenarios as you go through, because a lot of times, and this is the difference from taking it, from the hustle to actually a business, because you recognize that you get what you pay for in times. And many times there's things I want to do, and I know I need that's in my next evolution that I need that I mean, I'll do it now, but at the same time, it's not going to be perfected until I actually contract out to do things like that. Because my next evolution is to bring on a person that will handle my social media for me to help set all this up and do all this stuff. So I can just present my expertise and have someone that's expert in social media platforms and things like that to do that. So,
Got it.
so that's what that example is. So it's just to show you that, even if you start with the same amount of inflows, the difference on the tax effect is different. And it could be various other different ways and all that you can look at it that way.
Okay, perfect. That was explained perfectly. Thank you so much for that.
Mhm. Anyone else that has a question? If you want to uh, raise your hand or in the or unmute. Okay. Oh, Joel.
Yes, just real quick. I mean, I don't know if this question fits into the scope of what you covered today, but what is your opinion of network marketing type businesses?
Oh, network marketing. I mean, um, those are a type of business also, and that's just one of just businesses. Once again, you have to understand the business that you're getting yourselves into. I mean, I participated in network marketing and I appreciate it because it helped me understand some of the policies and practices of business, such as marketing, going out there, information, meeting with clients, doing those different things. So, like I said, it's one aspect of business. So you just have to understand. Now, when you get into network marketing, there's usually a platform that's set up where you have to be able to bring in and do it effectively in order to see some of the benefits of it. Typically, you got to have a team going in, working with that team, and then building so that you grow your network of folks that you're dealing with, whatever is a service or product. That's the basis of the network marketing. So I think it's a viable type of business, but once, like any business, you have to be suited to it and you have to understand it and work it in order for it to grow. Any other questions? Well, if you do, you can contact me on these various platforms afterwards. Uh, Once again, the next session is going to be next month. They're always the second Saturday each month. It'll be May 8th from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. We usually just have an hour session to go over the information that's presented. Next month's session is going to be business entities. So we're going to look at the various business entities and look at what is the advantages and disadvantages of that. And I think this is important because I get asked a lot of times, I want to start a nonprofit. And then when I get into asking and talking with people about why they want to start a nonprofit, then it goes back to, you mean I could start a for-profit and still be able to donate and do this? Or I do a nonprofit and I would suggest, well, have you have any experience? And I said, have you been able to develop a program, work within an existing one, then build it up? I mean, there's different things that people can do. So, my goal is for next session, when we look at business entities, is open up the mind as far as understanding the different options you have for your business so that you can be best design it in order to be most successful for you. A lot of businesses fail not because of bad ideas, but it's wrong timing, wrong implementation. So we want to kind of minimize that so you can have a much more opportunity to be successful in what you do and carrying out the purpose and vision of the business that you want to start. So thank you for taking the opportunity and time this morning to tune in. Put on your calendars for May 8th at 10 a.m. I'll send reminders out. And once again, if you're not part of the business development group, request that. That way you're able to get access to more information as I post different things out there and about information as things come across. And you'll be able to access a copy of this video afterwards, after I load it up on this, and also on the YouTube platform for Visions 2020 LLC. So thank you once again, and look forward to seeing you next month as we continue this process and look at building your business. Have a
Thank
good
you.
rest of the day. All right.
You too.
Hey, have a great day.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.